Last Hunt, which is essentially where Kraven hunts Spider-Man, beats him, and then takes over as Spider-Man in the comics to prove that he is the better Spider-Man. Kraven was always an interesting villain, in my opinion. I always enjoyed him in the comics. And so I've always thought Kraven the Hunter could have made for a great movie. And this is certainly one of those that doesn't need to be Spider-Man focused. Like, this could have just followed Kraven as he's becoming this hunter and he's proving that he's better than everyone, and ended with him going into New York City to kind of show that he could become the ultimate hunter and take out Spider-Man. So you could have had Spider-Man show up at the end of the movie, but unfortunately Sony really just kind of wanted to do these standalone villain movies that are anti-hero movies, like Venom and Morbius, and for the most part they just don't work that way because of there's no reason why they're anti-heroes. It just doesn't make sense. Kraven the Hunter sadly kind of falls in that hole. Doesn't make sense why he's an anti-hero. They never explain why he's doing what he's doing in the movie outside of the fact his dad, who's played by Russell Crowe, is an asshole, and because his dad is an asshole and a arms dealer, drug dealer, criminal boss, he has to take out other criminal bosses, but they never really explain it. It doesn't make any sense as far as that goes. They do introduce a lot of Spider-Man villains in this movie, and I don't want to, if it's something you plan on seeing, it's not a bad movie. It's entertaining, and if you remove Kraven the Hunter, the name, and you remove the names of all the other characters in the movie that are related to Marvel, it's actually a pretty good movie. But because there are all these names attached to them, they had to throw in things that didn't really need to be there. The Rhino's in it, and honestly, you get one maybe 5-minute sequence in the movie where you actually get to see him as the Rhino, and it's kind of interesting. It's certainly not the first time we've seen a studio take and try and bring the comic version of a character over and put him in live action and it not look goofy. Amazing Spider-Man 2 had the Rhino be in a mechanical suit. So I understand not everything design-wise in the comics is going to translate over to the real world. And this one, they tried to do this whole thing with it being a doctor out of New York City that gave Alexei Sitsovich his powers to become the Rhino. But I mean, overall, it's not the worst movie I've seen. It's just because of the fact it's a Marvel movie and it has Marvel characters that there are a lot of fans of and we love. We've enjoyed these characters in the comics. The movie just doesn't do them justice. And I mean, one of the best lines in the movie, or the worst, is when they introduce one of the villains whose name is the Foreigner. And this is a comic book villain I don't ever remember. So I had to look it up and found out that he was in fact a Spider-Man villain. But the line in the movie is, the reason they call me the Foreigner is because I'm not from here. It is hands down just the best line or worst line. I can't quite make up my mind on this one, but I think if I ever go to any other country to visit, I'm going to use that line. They call me the Foreigner because I'm not from here. It's so stupid. But yeah, I mean, if you get a chance, I wouldn't necessarily say avoid this one. I don't think it's as bad as the reviews are making it out to be. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I could definitely see, if he's given the right screenplay and a much better director, I could easily see him bringing the actual Kraven the Hunter from the comics to life. I think he's a perfect fit for the role. I just don't think this was the Kraven the Hunter role that I wanted from the comics. But it was still a fun movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. I have my gripes with it, and I think they hopefully Sony can lose the rights to Spider-Man soon enough so they don't do any more of these things. But they've also said that this was the very last one as part of their Sony Spider Villain verse, whatever the hell you want to call it. So it is what it is, and we won't have to see another one of these. But if you check it out on TV, catch it, you might not be disappointed by it. If you happen to go to the theater and see it, it's decent enough that it's worth seeing at the theater. And as long as you can kind of set aside some of those gripes with like the Marvel characters and everything, this is probably one of the more decent Sony ones that they've put out as far as the Marvel-verse goes, or the Spider-Verse goes, or whatever you want to call it. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.